Welcome everybody to this masterclass. This is the first one in the series of 12 months. Actually, I want to just start with the foundations of the nervous system, and that is actually forms the basis of my work and the basis of the Adjust Your Mind method. So I'm going to share my screen, and can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So for today, the theme is to get to know your nervous system better and to learn how to connect deeply with your nervous system and befriend your nervous system, so you're able to move beyond fear. So most of the people that are interested in my work and are joining the community, they are interested in change. So they want change, they want to grow, and they want to expand. And often when they take their first steps towards change and expansion, fear and resistance comes in. And of course, I am kind of the expert in this. Like I am the fear expert, because I've been kind of stuck in, I guess, in all sorts of different nervous system states. I think I know the whole repertoire, and the end result is really that I was not living my my full potential, and it looked like I was very good in pretending that I was doing amazing things, but at the end of the day, it was actually I was kind of in my comfort zone and stuck. So I'm very excited just to dive into this subject, and I found a way out. I found a way out of being stuck, and that I'm just really happy to share with you today. I want to start with just a quote of one of my teachers. I think Marie and Marielle probably know him. Donny Epstein, he's a chiropractor. The shape, the tone, and the quality of your nervous system will determine the shape and tone and quality of your life. I come to learn that the nervous system structure that you are creating your reality from is actually determines the outcomes and your experienced reality. And this is, of course, great news. That means that you really have to only be involved in your own in your inner technology, your own nervous system, and you don't have to change anything outside of you in order to change your reality. And so the theme for today is really like, what is fear and how can we face it, and how can we actually move beyond fear? Because when you're involved in change and growth and creating a new reality that is aligned with your heart, that means that you're always taking steps in unfamiliar territory. And when you're taking steps in unfamiliar territory, that means that fear comes up. So this is something that actually I come to learn is never going away. Like you will never wake up one day and think, okay, now I'm done with fear and I can just live my life joyously. This is an emotion that we just have to learn to accept as part of life, and we have to learn how to actually deal with it. And if you don't learn how to deal with fear and how it shows up in your life, it really keeps you stuck and keeps you in a comfort zone, which I've been in there for decades myself. And so in this session, I will like to just introduce how your nervous system is involved in this. So we've got a few chiropractors here, and Helen is also really well known and knows a lot about the nervous system as well. Helen is a nutritionist, so it might be something that is really familiar for all of you. But for me, it was, even though I'm a chiropractor, when I first came across this information, it was actually really quite helpful, because we're looking at it from a slightly different perspective that you do when you're in our training. And so my work is really about harnessing what I call our inner technology, which is our brain, our nervous system, the tools that we've all been gifted that are part of our innate makeup, our awareness, intuition, will, determination, and we can use and harness those inner technological tools to face fear with courage and learn how to move beyond fear. And we're going to explore the concept of resistance and obstacles that will inevitably show up when we are growing and expanding and moving into territories that we haven't experienced before. And my hope is, and that's why I want to create this community, because I've been working with people one-on-one, that it is actually quite necessary to have a supportive community around you to practice those tools and to practice the work, because it really takes practice to move beyond fear, and where we can also share and our perspectives and our learning. And ultimately, of course, my vision is that we are all able to live that expanded version of ourselves. So we are able to be of best service to our clients. I work mainly with health professionals or people that are also in the business of helping people. And if I help the providers, then I can help more people indirectly as well. And so this is my passion. My work is based on a few premises, and the premise that I wanted to share with you today is that we are all born creators. We actually continuously creating our experienced reality from moment to moment, from two opposing neural pathways. Most of us create unconsciously using our default survive neural pathways, or consciously using our thrive neural pathways. And depending on which pathways you use, you create a vastly different experienced reality. And the second premise is that awareness is key. So really learning to develop your inner technology of awareness, that we become aware from which pathway we're actually creating our reality, because that opens choice. When you become aware and when you step away from yourself in a way, you actually can see the bigger perspective, and that opens choice. And the end result for today is that that you learn some different states of your nervous system. I'm going over the cycle of change. This is a structure. And I hope that you start to recognize the nervous system structure that you use predominantly. And that you become aware of the unique ways that you resist change. Does anybody have any, maybe we have a little pause here and just share what is landing so far? Is there anybody want to share, or is everything quite clear? Yeah, it's actually, do you want to unmute yourself? Yeah.
Well, what's really landing is the awareness in me now that you have to be aware of your fear.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Dali?
Hi, this is so wonderful. Thank you so much for putting this together. One thing that really is landing for me is that fear is just energy filtered through belief systems and ideas about the world or yourself that you don't prefer. And once you step into that fear and take away the belief that's attached to the feeling, then you see fear for what it really is, which is just energy. And then you can take that energy with you into a state that you do prefer. And that is like true power. So having that awareness really allows you to choose consciously which states you prefer. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Dali, is that you once you become aware of the fear and you see it for what it is, you actually start to realize that it is um, a huge source of potential energy and fuel that you can use. And like I sometimes see fear as like little gold mines that are kind of hidden in your being, and you have to mine them, and
Yeah.
you have to kind of put up with a whole big pile of rocks in front of your doorstep and a whole big of pile of mess in front of your doorstep before you actually reach the gold nuggets.
Mhm.
And once you reach the gold, it's like it's pure energy, it's pure gold, pure energy. Thank you. Actually, I like to also, I forgot to mention that, but if you can grab like something to write with, like maybe you already have that, like a pen and paper, because um, I'm going to invite you to write a few things down a little bit later stage. Well, so this brings me to this really cool model that I kind of whipped up today on Canva. And Visma, we had a seminar this weekend in Bali with some chiropractors, and Visma used this. I changed it a little bit, and I thought it was really great. And I'm going to just start with this because it's so important that once you start to take steps on this path, so these steps towards really desiring to express your heart and really desiring to be of service and be the best version of you so you can serve yourself better and others, that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be you're going to um, you're going to go through some cycles of resistance. And I thought I'll share it with you because it's really important that you know that beforehand. And that's the other reason that I believe a supportive community is of utmost importance. It's so essential to that we help each other to move through those times of resistance, because they will inevitably come up. They always do. And so this is what I call the cycle of change. Is and you basically have 5 stages. The first stage is uninformed optimism. So here I always have to think about, in the tarot cards, you've got the fool card, where the fool just kind of steps out in the world, and he doesn't know that there's a big like a raven or something in front of him. So you're here, it's like, okay, great, I'm going to do this. I'm going to I'm going to change. It doesn't matter what you want to do. Say, for example, what would be an example? Maybe I use you, Dali. Like you want to do your acting, for example. You really have a deep desire to become a well-known, celebrated actress. And this is something that has been in your heart for years, and you really just want to do that. So you've got this initial optimism. You're excited and to embark on a new journey, but you're not yet aware of all the obstacles that are on your way and that you will have to face. Now, so you've got this optimism. And then stage 2 is the stage of informed pessimism. And here you become aware of the first emotions of resistance. You might encounter some fear, and you might start to kind of get a little bit frustrated. And actually, most projects, I would say, fail in between stages 1 and stages 3. And here is where people check out. And you can either check out publicly, so you can, for example, voice criticism, like, you know, this whole acting school that I signed up with, like they really just don't know how to teach acting, you know, they're really not good at it at all. I'm going to try and find another acting school. Or you point at, you know, there's some sort of criticism in it. Or you can do it privately as well. So privately is just where you become less interested. You might start to forget some classes here and there. Or procrastination is a really big one. That you start, procrastination starts coming up. Or and this is actually a really great phase where a mentor can be of great help, because this is quite a difficult phase to get through on your own. Most people fail around here if you don't have a coach or a mentor to help you with this. And this is also where your choices, so in my work, we're going to learn how to make choices, but this will come over the next months. And choices are actually based on something that you love to create, and it's something that you do every day. And these can help in these kind of phases. And of course, here is also where you need a supportive network. And if you don't have that, you will end up in the valley of despair, where that's actually, it's really quite excruciating actually, because most of the time you've been here before, because those structures have integrity. So it's not the first time that you've wanted to do something, and it's not the first time that you're failing because of limiting beliefs and resistance. But it is excruciating because you know you're going to do it again, but you don't know how to get out of it. Does that make sense? Most people recognize it, and most people are in kind of an oscillating structure. So you move towards what you love and move away what you love. And it's actually connected to a nervous system state that we're going to learn a little bit later. And when you're able to move through this with either the help of a mentor or a supportive community, or some sort of external help, and you move towards the dotted line again, the north of the dotted line, you become more informed about your optimism. So you're starting to build courage, and you start to feel more confident about what you create. And sorry, did you want to ask something? No, Helen. You become less anxious, and you start to connect with your inner power. And eventually stage 5 is where you grow and complete this cycle. And here is where you learn. So when you're here, like I always picture a mountain. Here's the top of the mountain. You want to go to the top of the mountain, you're here. And you kind of cycle forwards and upwards. So every growth cycle goes through different stages. And actually, I don't mean to discourage you, but this is actually an endless cycle. It never stops. It really never stops. And every time you go through a growth cycle, you go through the same phases of resistance, of fear, of all of that, but it will become easier because you start to connect with you start to become more confident, and you start to recognize resistance. Oh, here it is again. And we just have to move through it together. Does anybody want to share here what's landing? Dali.
I just wanted to say that this is wonderful, and also that once you develop like a different relationship with fear or resistance, it actually becomes very exciting, because it is also our belief that resistance is a negative thing, or it's unenjoyable. But since the growth cycle is like infinite, essentially, and you like become comfortable within the growth mechanism, you actually get excited when challenges come up, because then you're like, oh my God, here's another fear. Let me just check in with where that belief system comes from. Let me get rid of that belief system. And then you bring the energy with you. So it's like, it actually like, it's super enjoyable at a certain point to feel resistance. Like it's not like a sorry to let you know that this is gonna be forever, you know. It's like it's so fun, and then you're like on the leading edge of creation, you know, and that is like so enjoyable. So yeah, just wanted to say
Yeah.
that it's not like a difficult thing necessarily.
Yeah, thank you, Dali. Well, I this is very encouraging, because I certainly am not at that stage yet. For me, it's not so enjoyable yet. but what I do know is that I see obstacles not in the way, but I see obstacles as on the way. And I'm kind of at that stage where I do start to peek into the excitement of it, but it's highly uncomfortable for me still. So this is very encouraging that at some stage it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yay!
feel exciting, and
Yeah,
it's
great,
it's
great,
wonderful actually.
great. Anybody else wants to share what's landing?
I think it's fantastic, JT. it's so relevant to what's happening for me right now too. So it's really useful.
Which part are you in, Helen?
I think at the moment, I'm definitely between stage 2 and 3. I've had some ups and downs with my business, but I've kind of on a bit of almost heading for that valley of despair. I think last night I had a really bad sleep last night. I had a lot of Eli was up till late with a friend, and I barely slept, and I always sleep really well, but I think I was just lying there for about 3 hours trying to get back to sleep, which doesn't normally happen. And I was trying to do some square breathing, but you know, at that time of night, that's when all your biggest fears emerge. It was all just spinning around in my head.
Yeah, I always have to think about how when the moon shines on an object that it gets disformed, or it gets out of proportion. So it does that with your fears too, doesn't it? When in the night it gets kind of out of proportion. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Well,
I've seen
I'm happy.
this whole pattern. I've seen it before, so I know, you know, and it's like what goes up must come down, because we can't continually stay at the top, can we? We have to keep moving through
No.
different changes.
Yeah, as long as you're growing,
Yeah,
as long as you're not kind of staying stuck in a kind of the same thing, then
yeah. And like
but-
you say, with mentors and coaches, that's where they come in, isn't it? It's so
Yeah.
useful to have.
Yeah. Or and a community to help you as well.
Yeah.
So here you can see on the bottom, you can see time. So when you're stuck, you're kind of in that repeating phases 1, 2, 3, and when you're growing, you can move through it. What was I going to say? What was obvious as well? I can't remember now. Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on. So ultimately, like, I assume that everybody that is here today, they are keen to live a more expansive version of themselves. They're keen to, they have a desire to sit in the driver's seat of their life and to really become an autonomous and conscious creator of your reality. And because, of course, I'm a chiropractor, I look at things from the nervous system. So I relate all of this conscious creating through to the nervous system and the nervous system states. And you cannot change your experience reality without changing the state of your nervous system first. And when I started to connect with this, I realized that it was just kind of a relief for me, because I realized it's actually structural, it's not personal. So, because we are meaning making beings, we make constantly, everything means something, right? We make up stories and we make things mean something. So when we are in some sort of, so when we are stuck, for example, we make that mean something, and we often blame ourselves, like, why doesn't it work for me? And it works for others. Like Helen, in your case, you might think, why can't I make this not happen, or why am I in this pattern and other people seem to be really successful? Or maybe Dali, if you're in the valley of despair, you're like, anybody else is acting amazingly, and why can't I do it? Or you make it mean something. But what I realize is that anybody that is stuck in the same structure will have the same outcomes. It's got nothing to do with you personally, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. And well, so the choices that you make determine the outcomes in your life. So when you're making choices from a certain nervous system state that you're in, you have an outcome that matches that reality. And awareness brings choice. So I love this. This is very easy to remember. And becoming aware of from what nervous state you're in, you actually start to have the choice to move to a different nervous system state, basically by learning how to regulate your nervous system. And I created the Adjust Your Mind method over the past years, and it's essentially a neuro-regulating tool that you can use to change the state of your nervous system. So what does it mean to live an expanded version of yourself? And here the inquiry is, so maybe you can write, if you want to write some things down, like, what does an expanded version look like for you? And what does it feel like? Like for me, personally, it is that I am connecting with a greater vision that I have for my life. And for me, it means a lot about acting it out. So this is something that I connected with only quite recently. I was quite kind of, I'm probably quite cerebral. I like to think stuff, and I like to, I philosophize, and I stay a little bit in my head, and the acting part was really lacking. So I, in this whole kind of spiritual, this whole spiritual movement, I think was also a little bit led where you kind of go with the flow and you know, if you get resistance, it's probably not the right thing, you know, like that whole I was in that for a long time. So for me now, living an expanded version of myself has a lot to do with doing and acting it out. So I'm really into doing these days. And your vision and something that you love to create is often based on something on a void that you didn't experience growing up. So for example, in my case, I like to share myself and share my truth and be seen and be heard and all of those things that I actually missed when I grew up. So this is part of my vision, if that makes sense. And ultimately, when you're living that expanded version of yourself, you experience more higher emotions of love and peace and joy, because I believe they are part of your true essence, actually. And they will naturally emerge when you're living a life that is coherent with your true essence. You increase your emotional and mental resilience, so you're better able to deal with resistance. For me, living an expanded version is where giving and receiving is in balance, and I allow myself to receive abundance and prosperity from my connection with my creative source and being able to share this with others. And an expanded version is where you are co-creating your life with flow and ease. So you're not burning the candle at both ends. So if somebody wants to share what their expanded version looks like, it's always really great to concretize, to speak it out.
Maybe
Dali?
I'd like to say,
iPad.
I think I started to speak.
Yes,
Can you see me?
please. Yeah, I can see
Actually,
Marie. Yeah.
Yes. Surprising for me, what you just said was that we live, that, for example, you lived in your head. For me, it's actually other way around. I live in my body, and it's like I haven't got a head. So I always approach everything through action rather than through my head. So for me, it's actually totally opposite. So I face the fear with the physicality of myself. So
fantastic.
So I do things, and I don't know why I'm doing it. And it's also, there is a fear behind it, really.
What do you mean? What's the fear behind it?
Well, that I have got fear of action or task, or today to wake up, for example, to make sure that I make a Zoom. So I kind of have got fear of doing it physically rather than mentally. Mentally, I kind of feel that my head doesn't cope with actions. I don't know if I can explain it. It's actually somehow other way around, that I kind of dismiss my head to work it out mentally, and I just go through process of physicality of the task. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah. Dali, did you want to share?
Hi. So wonderful. Okay, so what what I wanted to say is that the thing that has really helped me live my expanded version of myself is, this is gonna sound semi-cliche, but there's actually a little bit more to it, is to become fully yourself. And lots of people that are living in today's world see themselves as parts, not as a whole. And once you look at yourself as a whole, aka, I mean, for example, your conscious mind and your greater mind are actually part of the same person. And Marie, you're actually doing like incredible, because that's also how I'm now living, which is to act out of impulse, and then you'll realize your life will become insanely synchronistic because your higher mind actually knows where you want to go. Your conscious mind is not designed to know how you're going to get to where you want to go. So the only job of your conscious mind is to perceive physical reality and enjoy the experience of perceiving it. So it's not your job to organize how you're going to get to where you're going to get. Um, it's just your job to follow your impulse and then to perceive with your mind. So it's like so wonderful once you really become yourself, aka become yourself fully, wholly, and letting the parts that are designed to do what they're designed to do their parts, and not let your physical mind get in the way of taking on the responsibility of doing what it's not designed to do. So that is wonderful. Great.
Yeah, thanks, Dali. That's really beautiful. And I also had the same, Marie, when you were sharing. I was like, well, actually, great. You're doing great, because the actual how is not really part of our business in a way. And that's what we all try to work out. How are we going to do this? So we're all kind of stuck in this problem solving mindset. But it's really the why, the vision that, and we can envision. We've got this marvelous mind that can envision what we love, and we've got this hugely intelligent heart that can feel the emotion of it, and a body to act it out. But once our mind starts to be take over jobs that are not designed for the mind, it just goes all awfully. You create an awful mess. Yeah, fantastic. Anybody else wants to share what an expanded version looks like for?
I think for me, an expanded version on a ethereal thing is just staying in contact with that same source that I had during my near-death experience. I just really enjoy that, and that takes away almost any problem that I have, because that space that I was in when that movie of my life played in front of me, it was like a cosmic joke got revealed of even the worst day that I'd had in my whole life was just hilarious. And that's not to take away or undermine any of the problems I'm having at the moment, but it somehow gives a perspective on that. So I just for me, it's just really important to stay in touch with that source. And then on a more earthy plane, I just think I just love chiropractic so much. And I really like to leave a really nice legacy for the profession, in that I just really like to help chiropractors retain their clients and just keep people getting adjusted, thousands of times in their lives. And that's a challenge and an opportunity and just a project that I've really got my teeth into these last 5 years. So I guess the metrics from seeing the practices come through now, it's really great retention results and lifetime value results, those objective metrics. That's also a nice way to tick the box that I'm living a more expanded version of myself.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on, and of course then the next question is, what does it mean to not live that and to stay small, to stay in your comfort zone with little or no growth, not being able to face life's challenges, not having that mental and emotional resilience to grow and expand, and being a victim, I would say, of your limiting beliefs and dysfunctional patterns that are in control of your life. And from experience, I know that when you when you do stay small, eventually that becomes really quite painful and sad, because you know that you have so much more to give and to share with others, but you're not doing this, so you're not giving that part of you to the world. You're not sharing you with the world, and actually, yeah, that's quite sad if you really think of it, because we're here to do that. So you can experience emotions as fear, sadness, frustration. I've experienced all of them. Hopelessness, guilt, shame. Guilt, shame, I don't have so much, but the others I know very well. And of course, ultimately, this expresses in physical dis-ease and depression and anxiety. Anybody wants to share how that plays out for themselves? Like, how does it show up in your life when you're playing small? Dali?
Hi. So for me personally, this all came down to lack of information for me. Like not understanding what a limiting belief is, not understanding that we have the power to make choices in that, not understanding that everything is within our power. And when we are living in sadness, frustration, hopelessness, that it is like in our power to do that. And also that we are doing that to ourselves and then taking radical responsibility for it. Like that has allowed me to break free from it. But it all came down to lack of information and not realizing how powerful we are. So that, yeah, this is all very frustrating to be in, but if you have one realization that you are doing it to yourself, and that you are doing it, then you can choose, then it doesn't become a habit anymore, because the moment you know it's a habit, it's not a habit, because a habit is doing something you're unconscious of. So once you're conscious of it, it's all about awareness and choices then, right? And then
Yeah,
once you're
it
conscious of
is.
it, you can choose something different forever. And if you get off that bandwagon, you have another belief that it should be difficult to make your choices and that it's not always going to be easy, and like they just keep coming up. But it's all about understanding that. So like knowledge, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and and then like you said, choice opens up. So then all of a sudden you have a choice, and that's huge. That is really huge. Thank you. Anybody else wants to share?
I think when I'm staying small, I just get really lazy. I make all sorts of excuses for myself, and then I scroll on social media, or I read something endlessly that has nothing to do with anything I'm interested in, or I'll go to the beach with my surfboard, and then I'll just sit on the grass and have a sleep. I just get all really super lazy. That's how that's how when I stay small, it comes out of me. But then I do sometimes I like reading the Stoics, these kind of disciplined Stoics from Rome, where they're just really into discipline and or like Dali said, just taking radical responsibility for my own life. I hate that and love that at the same time, because it means I can't blame somebody for it, because it's me that's always, oh, look at you.
Oh, yay.
Let's go, Mario. Hey, Karina. Yeah, so that, it's a double-edged sword for me. On one hand, I love it, and the other hand, I hate it, because it's my responsibility. So that gives me the tools that it's on me and not on someone else changing or a circumstance changing. But on the other hand, it means I've kind of got to do it all, and then I get a bit lazy. When I get overwhelmed, I get a bit like like narcolepsy. I just like to go and have a sleep and wake up and hope that it's all over.
It's when your mind
Yes.
takes on the job that it's not supposed to be doing.
I think so. Something like this, yes.
Yes.
Guys, I don't mean to be rude, but we're about to start now.
Mhm.
So I'm going to have to love and leave you all. Thank you so much. Lovely to see everybody. Thanks, Jody.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Early.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining.
Enjoy
See
the
you
rest.
later.
Well, I'll watch the rest of the recording. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ciao,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
So ultimately, ultimately the question here is who is actually in control? Are you is your survive orientation in control, which is basically fear? Are you in your comfort zone, which is also fear, but you're a little bit more you're just staying comfortable, there's no growth? Or are you really thriving?
Sorry, just a question on the brain. Is
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
just one back. Are these parts of the brain exactly where those mechanisms are? So, like, if you're in your survival zone, does that come from the bottom of the mind, of the brain? So it's like,
Yeah, this
cool.
is basically your lower brain, midbrain, and neocortex is your this is your the lower and midbrain are actually the oldest parts of your brain. Actually, I'm going to get into it a little bit deeper when we're going over the nervous system. They're
Okay.
the oldest parts of your brain, and they developed about 500 million years ago, roughly. And the neocortex is the newest addition to the brain, around 200 billion years ago. And before we had a neocortex, we actually kind of lived and did everything with just, so everything was taken care of the lower and midbrain. And the neocortex just allowed for other functions like intuition, awareness, all of those qualities came with the newer part of the brain.
Amazing.
Just why is it that so many people struggle to live this version of themselves? Is because they take steps towards, like, it's that cycle again, that the change, what is it, the change curve that I showed in the beginning. You take steps towards what you love to create, and then resistance comes up. Resistance can take many different forms, and I would really invite you to look at how you personally, how resistance shows up in your life. It's for example, with me, it is not so obvious, actually. It's more like I'm sitting down to, for example, write something or do some sort of creative project, and then all of a sudden I get really, really hungry, and then I start cooking, and then I sit down again to start and do my project, and then I realize, oh, I haven't cleaned up the kitchen, I better clean up the kitchen first. And then I sit down again, and then all of a sudden I really feel like a coffee, so I go make coffee, and then I sit down, and then I have to go to the toilet, and then I go to the toilet, and then this is how it can show up, resistance. And with me, actually, like Dali said, we are such incredibly powerful creators that I actually create illness. Like when I really do something that I'm passionate about and taking steps towards it, I get sick. For example, I've got those days where I completely collapse. I get a headache. I get, I have to vomit. I get like everything. I start sweating, and all of that happens. We are so incredibly powerful that we create the most exquisite excuses, and then make yourself believe that it's got nothing to do with you. It's all circumstances. And And of course, this is all really clever ways of keeping you safe. As we're going to learn a little bit later on, this is very, very natural and very normal. And it is real, like it is very real. So what why you actually have of resistance coming up is because your nervous system is just simply not aware yet that your new experiences are safe. Like again, because your vision is always based on a void, on something that you missed when you grew up. So you want to move towards something that you haven't experienced before. It's a new experience. So your nervous system is always going to freak out when you take steps towards it. And like I love how Sarah Baldwin, you did the course also from Sarah, didn't you, Helen? Did you do Sarah's course?
Well, I'm not sure which one you mean.
Sarah Baldwin?
Don't think so.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I did a course with her, and she always said, and I love that, she said, your nervous system will block your attempts and stand in front of you. But when your nervous system is standing in front of you and resisting anything that you want, it's always going to win, because it's 500 million years old, and it's a lot stronger and more power. It's just really, it's always going to win. So you want your nervous system to stand next to you, to help you on your way. And this has everything to do with regulating your nervous system. So it's not going to stand in front of you, it's standing next to you. And what is really, really good to know, and this is also a bit of knowledge, Dali, that I agree, knowledge is so powerful once you start to know it, that when there is a massive resistance, there is always a significant amount of love as well. Resistance is directly proportional to love. So when you're facing resistance, you actually know you're on the right track. When you're not having any resistance, when you're in your comfort zone, you're absolutely are not on the right track. So this is fantastic piece of knowledge, because then you go, okay, I've got resistance here. I'm on the right track. I'm doing something that I love. I just have to know how to battle this. I just have to know how to get my nervous system to stand next to me and not in front of me. And of course, I believe, because, I love working with the nervous system, that the answer is found within our nervous system. And our nervous system's primary focus is always safety and survival first, before realizing your dreams. So it goes like, fair enough. You can dream about what you love. I don't mind that. Just dream about it. But as soon as you take action steps towards creating it, I'm just going to protect you. And it's just this overly protective friend. It's not malicious. It's just really, like, if you really think about it, who has been always there to protect you and keep you safe? Your nervous system. Who is never, ever letting you down? Your nervous system. Who is always there 24/7 to help you, to guide you, to keep you safe, to support you? Your nervous system. It doesn't want to block you because it doesn't want you to create your dreams. It just wants you to be safe. And taking steps towards your vision, because it's based on a void, it's always going to be met with resistance, because it's always going to be scared. For me, like, being seen and heard and expressing myself is super scary. Like, I am very comfortable with one-on-one. That's why I do what I do as a chiropractor. It's really comfortable for me to work with clients one-on-one. It's super scary for me to work in groups and to share, what I love in bigger groups. I was just speaking at the Edinburgh lectures in in Scotland. Marie, I really missed you there, and Marielle, but really, literally, I was going. I was standing there like 10 minutes before I got on, and I was like, honestly, how am I going to get out of this? I was completely freaking out, but there was no way back. I had to do it. So your nervous system, because it has this incredible database that it stores every experience, every emotion, everything you've ever experienced is stored somewhere in this huge database. So when you're taking steps towards something you love, your nervous system goes, hang on, I remember this. Yes, when she was 7 years old, she shared her, impulsively, really didn't think, just was really sharing what she loved, and then she was ridiculed and everybody was laughing. So this is going to happen again, this really very similar situation. We're going to block her. We're going to stand in front of her and keep her safe and make sure this is not going to happen again. So it can act both as a protector and as a barrier. And of course, the good news is that we can at all times rewire and upgrade our brain. We can, when we studied, remember, Marie, when we studied, that whole concept of neuroplasticity was even not so developed yet, right? We learned like, hey, once it's like that, it stays like that. But it's now, of course, we know that it's not true. We can at all times rewire and upgrade and form new synapses, basically.
Yeah.
Form new synapses in our brain, magnificent brain. And we have to communicate and befriend our nervous system and show our nervous system that our new reality is actually safe. So we need to start talking with our nervous system, and the talking with our nervous system has to happen through the body. That's why chiropractic is so extremely, how do you say it? So extremely powerful. Yes, you don't need fixing. You're already whole and complete. And I touched upon it earlier that it's often structural. You're just in the wrong structure. You're just stuck in the wrong nervous system structure. Your resistance to growth and change is natural and human. Everybody faces fear. Like if you look at anybody that's successful, I bet you that they have mastered fear and they have been through the same cycles as us. Like you can't be successful and live like your true nature and express your true nature on purpose when you don't go through fear. And your nervous system holds the key to growth and change. So when you're stuck, it just needs a little bit of help from you. I just want to touch upon the concept of neuroception very briefly. It's your subconscious threat detector or surveillance system. And it's actually developed it's a term that's coined by Stephen Porges. And he also developed the polyvagal nerve theory. It's an automatic way of scanning the environment if you're safe or not. And it happens all unconsciously, and it happens 24/7. It never stops. When it senses safety, you relax. You're able to connect with yourself and others. And when it detects danger, you either fight or flight your way into safety. You shut down or freeze. I think everybody knows, maybe Dali doesn't know, but we all know the polyvagal comes from the two branches of the vagus nerve. It's the longest nerve in the body. it connects the brain with the body, and polyvagal means more than one. So we have a ventral division and a dorsal division, and they are basically I'm going to explain it a little bit later, but all you have to know now is that there's two divisions, and they are part of your internal surveillance system. Okay, I'm just going to go over this. What is important here? Okay, what is really important here is that most of us are in a dysregulated chronic survival state. So our survive pathways, they become our default pathways. And we are creating our reality based from this state. And our survive pathways are basically, we have more survive pathways than thrive pathways. Our survive pathways are basically our fight-flight state as conveyed through the sympathetic nervous system, your shutdown state, which is dorsal vagal, the dorsal part of the vagus nerve, dorsal branch. Stuck state and freeze is actually a hybrid between dorsal and vagal. It's 50-50. And your lower brain and midbrain areas are part of your survive pathways. And how it works is that the synapses or the connections with your neocortex are a little bit slower and less developed. And important to know is that I'm talking here about a dysregulated and incoherent nervous system that most of us have. So when our nervous system is regulated, we can actually easily move between all the states of, for example, you get out of bed, you had a really nice sleep, and you wake up, you have your breakfast, and you jump into your car to go to work, or on your bicycle to go to work. And you're in your car, you're driving along, and all of a sudden, you feel ventral, you feel like relaxed, and you feel connected, and your breath is full, and you feel safe, basically. And all of a sudden, a car, shoots out from out of like in front of you, because it doesn't see you, and it cuts you off, and all of a sudden you're in, you get a fright. So you're in fight flight. There is a danger. And then you either go into a certain state, it can be dorsal or fight flight. So I often go in dorsal first, which means that you're kind of in a shock. So you go like, what was that? And you hold your breath, and then once you start to kind of realize what happened, you start to maybe get angry, like, that fucking asshole, what is he doing? He's cutting me off. And you get angry, and by the time you arrive at your work, you're back to your normal state. You're back into safe. You've kind of digested the experience, and you've worked through it. Your nervous system is regulated, so you're able and resilient, so you're able to move back to a state of safety, and you arrive at your work, and everything is okay. So this is a normal event where you move up that ladder, that like polyvagal ladder, in a really easy way. But when it's dysregulated, you actually stay stuck in one of those systems, and you're not able to move back into a state of ease and flow. And that's, of course, when the problems start. And signs and symptoms of a dysregulated nervous system can express itself in emotions of anxiety, frustration, anger, fear, overthinking, worry, panic, shame, and guilt, feelings of disconnection, overwhelm, hopelessness, pain in your body, a victim of circumstances, with thoughts of I am not enough. That I find that a really big one. I don't have the capacity. I'm not able to make this. This is never going to change. And I look at the different systems in terms of energy often. Like, so if you have enough energy in your system, you're able to fight or flight your way out of it. You have enough energy to mobilize. When you're dysregulated and in this state, like chronically, you might have thoughts of, they're out to get me. You're constantly on the run. There's constantly another thing that you have to do. I must now. You feel tired and wired. That might express in increased heart rate, dizziness, anxiety, panic attacks. There's always a sense of urgency, and you're constantly on the run. You're certainly not able to be present in the moment. There is this racy monkey mind constantly racing in your mind. You're very controlling. Often you can only see one perspective and not multiple perspectives, which is a real problem, I feel, in the world today, where people can just look at things from their own perspective. You're more interested in the object than the subject, and it's difficult to relax or slow down. You clash often with others. You might feel isolated. Others don't get me. Others don't understand me. And the inquiry is, do you recognize any of these signs and symptoms? You can just write them down in your journal. And how do they feel in your body? And what thoughts are created from this nervous system state that you're in? Now, this is a state that I know very well. It's basically the oldest nervous pathway system that we go to if your internal threat detector decides that the threat is life-threatening. You have not enough available energy or resources to fight or flight your way out of a situation, and you completely disconnect from yourself, from others. You disassociate, and often you leave your body. It's an avoidance strategy to preserve your energy, to keep the most important body functions going. Now, it was really interesting because Visma and I, we had like a couple of months ago, or maybe 4 months ago, we had quite a kind of like a big, what was it? We got some news that was really highly disturbing, and it was really interesting to observe how both our nervous systems responded very, very differently. So we both got the same news. I responded with complete shutdown. That was my first thing. My body kind of completely collapsed. I went under, like, I don't know, 10 blankets. If I didn't live in the tropics, I would probably hide myself under 10 blankets. And I was completely disconnected from anything else. And I was completely checking out. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Visma, on the other hand, he resided into the fight flight. So he started, working at 2 o'clock in the morning. He woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, started working, and really got into that state. And I was actually, so he was here and I was here, and you actually have to move. It's kind of a hierarchical system, so you have to move towards this system to become this level to go to ventral. So you have to move from dorsal. If you want to go to ventral, you can't move. You can't take a side step. So you have to go through this sympathetic system first, and then you can move into ventral. So he was just kind of one step ahead of me, and then I started to connect with this system. So I started to regain my energy, and I started to also connect with a lot more of a doing. I started to connect with my anger and all of that. And of course, ultimately, we all moved back into ventral, into a state of safety and ease. But it was really interesting to observe. So this is where emotions of hopelessness and depression, deep, deep, deep sadness and grief reside. And that often those emotions are related to thoughts of, you know, there's no point. I just want to go to sleep. Nobody cares about me. I'm all alone. Nobody understands me. And this is the dorsal vagal complex. And so you can complete disconnected. There is often like a foggy brain as well. Like I have that as well. So where you're not really clear about your next action steps, inability to concentrate, all of that. And this is a very interesting state where a lot of people are in, and I know all too well, is the stuck state, I call it, where you're equally in sympathetic and dorsal. So you have the energy to move, but you don't know how. It's like the deer in the headlights state. So, and this often results in a moving towards something you love and move away. So you keep oscillating. It's protective, and it's a state of tonic immobility, as they call it. And common thoughts is that, you know, I want to, I can't, I have to, I can't, I should, I shouldn't. So it's, you constantly have contradicting thoughts. It's like a complete nightmare. And of course, we have thrive pathways as well, luckily, which is the ventral vagus complex and basically your prefrontal cortex, and the synapses between the lower and midbrain, between your lower midbrain and your neocortex are more fast and well established. We are here when we feel safe. You want to hang out here most of the time to create a fulfilling life experience. This is typically an I can experience. And these are the signs and symptoms of a regulated nervous system. Here you are empowered, you're decisive, you are creative, you can you use your emotions, you're emotionally and mentally resilient. You feel connected with yourself and with others. There is a great trust. I'm capable, I belong, and I trust. And the inquiry here is, do you recognize these signs and symptoms, and how do they feel in your body? So we're almost there. So I just want to tie this up, and then we can finish with a bit more sharing. So it's always good to concretize. So yeah, the invitation here is to learn how to really deeply connect with that inner technology and learn how to get the knowledge, like Dali is saying, how to get unstuck. and there is a way. And to not see your nervous system as your enemy. It just doesn't know yet that your vision is safe to live. And we must show our nervous system and not tell our nervous system that it's safe. Like, so for example, if you feel anxious and you start to know that your breath is becoming, you know, more shallow and high, and maybe you start sweating or you start to feel highly uncomfortable, you can't just say like, you know, it's okay, don't, you know, it's fine, everything is really, you know, there's nothing to worry about here. Everybody really loves me and knows me, and you know, you start talking to yourself, but your nervous system doesn't get that. You have to actually show your nervous system through your body, because 80% of the vagus nerve pathways are actually sensory pathways. So the pathways that are move from like your body back to your brain, and only 20% is from the brain back to the body. And just tying it up, the Adjust Your Mind method, which is basically just chiropractic for the mind. So I'm using the same principles as what we use to adjust the nervous system through the body. I use the same principles you can use to adjust your mind, because the body and the mind are essentially the same. It's just that the body is a densified form of your mind. And by regulating our nervous systems, you enhance those thrive pathways. So you're retraining and reorganize your brain on a higher level of functioning. And we have to show our nervous system that new experiences are safe, so we can trust our inner guidance and have the courage to take action steps and engage in new experiences. And just in a real nutshell is, and this is what we're going to do over the next 12 months in our community. I'm going to send you an invite, Marielle, to join the community as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect with our vision and our end result. And I have a certain, like a meditation, like a visualization process for that. Like, what is your heart really longing for? And what do you want to express here in this life? But we're also connecting and acknowledging our current reality. So our current reality is basically the subluxations, as we chiropractors call it. The subluxations in your nervous system are those areas that are literally subluxated, so they're underlighted. They're those areas of us that are still stuck in a time when we experience a traumatic event, and these areas are longing to go home, basically to go home, back to the brain. And these areas are, like we call them, subluxated, but you can access those areas through the mind as well. So you can access them through the spine and the body. You can also access them through the mind. So we're doing that. And that these are the gold nuggets. These are the gold nuggets that are waiting for you to be mined. And these are the gold nuggets where you are finding your energy and your, that fuel that you need to drive towards your vision. So you actually need your subluxations. We can't create anything without our subluxations. So we're learning how to connect with them. And of course, we're connecting with our thoughts and emotions in those subluxated areas, and learn how to use them as fuel. And we learn how to take the next small, obvious action step. So our nervous system is not going to stand in front of us, but our nervous system is going to help us to create that reality that we are longing to create. Some of the exercises that you can do to actually speak with your nervous system is, of course, chiropractic, the Adjust Your Mind method. And we're going to probably allocate some time to learn a few of those as well, because you can do them yourself. I'm a big fan of co-regulating, so where we use each other to regulate. Like Dali mentioned it really beautiful the other day, my incredibly wise daughter. She has a friend who is quite, I would say, quite anxious. She's often stuck in a a kind of anxious state of survival. And this is, of course, really painful for herself, most of all, but it's also quite annoying for Dali most of the time. So she realized now that when she is in a state like this, she said to me the other day, she said, "Your mom, I'm just going to look her in the eye and I'm going to slow my breath down." And then because she has those mirror neurons, she actually starts to also slow her breath down. And she's going to speak a little bit slow and maybe just a little bit softly. And she realized that she's actually mirroring what Dali is doing. So she's actively co-regulating another human that is obviously in distress. So by knowing, one big epiphany I had, and I love it, is that I actually look at people more as nervous systems now. Like when I'm interacting with a nervous system that is, slightly, in survive, I kind of, first of all, I don't take it personal anymore. I just go like, oh yeah, that kind of nervous system. And then I just try and co-regulate that person just with connecting deeply with that, trying to connect with that person, and even just maybe touching, putting your hand on that person's shoulder, and just seeing that person as just another nervous system that is walking around trying to do the best they can. So co-regulating, animals are great to co-regulate with. Of course, I love animals. There is breathing techniques, tapping. I don't know so much about tapping. Emotional freedom technique. You can tap. And then I like to just end with a beautiful quote from one of my heroes, Buckminster Fuller. "You can never change anything by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." We're upgrading our brain, building a new brain. I'm going to stop share and just open up the floor for people to concretize what has landed. What are your takeaways?
I think it's really useful to very and the takeaways at the end of our, like, describe your present reality. What does it look and feel like, and how it manifests in our life, and focusing on those things is really helpful. I mean, it's not like I didn't already know those things. I've kind of written them down, it's self-inquiries, but having more awareness of them helps, I think, to move through to the next place with it.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, a big takeaway is that you have to actually not tell yourself or your nervous system that it's safe, but it has to go through your body, which is actually something strange, hearing that from a chiropractor, because it's that we do all the time. But I mean, just made that connection, like, okay, I mean, it's no use telling people, oh, your subluxation in your spine, your subluxation is going away. You actually have to do it, you know, you have to, yeah. So just, and just implementing that on my own thoughts, beliefs, fears. I mean, it's nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love the section on resistance. So it was quite revealing that if you have resistance, you are on the right track. So I like that. Resistance, it's stopping us to progress, and it takes some time before we actually possibly make that next step. So yeah, it's good to recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you. Dali?
Yes. So I loved your presentation. It was so nice. Thank you so much for all the in-depth detailed things. And I think just one thing to build on the following your bridges. So following the next obvious steps towards where you want to go. The cool thing with that is that that is excitement. So following your highest level of excitement in every given moment and like taking it to the furthest of your ability is a full kit. It leaves nothing relevant for you out. And excitement is your higher mind telling you what to do. And when you follow your highest level of excitement, aka when you are being your natural self and like being your higher mind at the same time and letting your conscious mind just only perceive what your actions, what your intuitions do, then once you become your full self, your beliefs will work extra hard at holding on to you, because beliefs have to work extra hard because they are not based on reality. They are not who you truly are. So like the reality of how wonderful life is as it is, and the universe loves and supports you unconditionally. So if you choose to believe in things, for example, it is not safe, I am not enough, it will support you unconditionally in that choice. But once you go for your excitement, those fear-based mechanisms have to work extra hard to hold on to you. That's why when you go for what you love, you feel resistance because they have to work really hard. But once you identify them, it can be as simple as identify in this exact second, I choose not to identify with that anymore. And it can be gone forever. So like, I think it's very important to realize that all of this is happening, but also know that you have the ability to instantaneously shift to a different reality that you prefer. And it does not have to, you don't have to linger or like think about and ponder and deepen and really go deep down in yourself. Like that can be a reality if you want that to be, but also know that you can just get it in that moment and shift to a reality you prefer and follow your excitement. So that is when it becomes exciting to see your challenge because you can shift instantaneously.
Yes, yes. And very true. And also, from experience, I have learned that there is always another layer. There's always another layer of you that is not that is longing to express itself. Like there is always like so it's a kind of a continuous process until you I guess maybe until you get enlightened. I'm really not sure what that looks like and feels like, but I can imagine that maybe maybe you don't have much like gold nuggets anymore. Maybe you've mined all your gold nuggets and that's the end of the road. But I don't know but for most of us that won't be the case. So there's always another gold nugget that is waiting and another gem that is waiting to be mined.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But basically your soul, sorry, we don't have to talk about this if it's not relevant, really quickly. It collapses in itself and creates this reality. So everything you see is a reflection within your soul, and you grow and expand constantly. So what happens is your soul is like this, and you decide to expand. So you collapse within yourself, create physical reality, and you grow from challenges. Your soul expands, and then you can choose to collapse again and collapse again, and your soul keeps expanding, and you collapse yourself within different realities and different lifetimes. So that's how.
Oh, right. Well, I have not, I can't wait to experience all different realities as well. Love that. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm just going to stop the recording for now.